Welcome to this special Life in the Day of C19 edition of the real estate crowdfunding show Syndication in the Digital Age at GowerCrowd.com. Today's guest is Tiffany Tai, who is GM Enterprise and Head of BizOps at Canva, the online design tool. We use Canva all the time, and the call with Tiffany was booked before the C19 crisis emerged. Our conversation today is focused largely on how you can use design to better communicate remotely and why design is important in communication online. However, being an effective communicator online obviously requires more than just images. You need a full suite of content and a way of delivering it, which is something that we do every day for our private clients here at GowerCrowd. So we have reduced our prices temporarily by over 80%. To the entire investor acquisition system that shows you exactly how to do that. Although it's built for real estate developers raising money online, the system really is just a remote communications machine designed for online messaging. It works for every business so you can reach more people faster and effectively than just trying to replicate the in-person communication that we're used to doing online, right? So we'll hold this discounted price until this whole C19 crisis lifts, and you can access it. If you want to take a look at that, it's on the homepage at GowerCrowd.com and on the podcast page for today's episode. If you listen to nothing else in today's episode, stick around for the first 10 minutes when Tiffany describes what it is that Canva are doing to help the world during these crazy times. It is as inspirational as it is impressive, and it makes me personally very happy and proud to be a Canva user, knowing that I am working on a system run by people with such high dignity and integrity. I've included links to Tiffany and Canva also on the podcast page for today's episode. You'll find that at GowerCrowd.com. One last thing, I managed to keep Tiffany waiting for 15 minutes before we recorded the episode past the scheduled time. So, a personal note of appreciation to you, Tiffany, for your patience and understanding. I really appreciated it then, and I appreciate it now. Thank you. All right, now it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Tiffany Tai, GM Enterprise and Head of BizOps at Canva, from whom you will learn the power of images and how to use them in communicating effectively online, something we all need to be doing at a higher level today, and Tiffany will explain to you exactly how they contribute to the world through Canva. You know, I wanted to go in a slightly different direction today. First of all, if that's okay with you, just because of all the madness that's going on.
Absolutely.
Right? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you something. I wanted to do something a little bit different.
All right.
Hold on, Tiffany. I had a list of questions, but you know what? Screw it. I'm not even going to bother with them today. Tiffany Tai, thank you from Canva for being on my podcast in the midst of all this madness. And what I wanted to ask you was, just tell me, you know, how do we use visualization and imagery and a technology like Canva, right, online, to design beautiful pictures, to draw ourselves out, right, of this craziness that's going on, this everyone's at home. So tell me something about the power of images to change the way people think.
Yeah, it's really quite incredible where it's, when you think about it right now, all of the news is just mind-blowing, right? Spectacular and super sensationalist almost. And there's a bunch of information just floating out in the world. And at the end of the day, it's what's the most important message that we want to be able to get across, right? Like we have this huge humanitarian situation right now as we kind of essentially completely upend the way folks live their day-to-day life. And of course, the of course, the true tragedy in terms of the pandemic and just being able to understand, hey, who actually has this and what does it mean for me? Like, how does it affect my family? How does it affect my day to day? That's something that certainly hits hard at home every day, everywhere, right? And so it's something for us here at Canva, we've been really, really mindful about over the course of the last couple of weeks, especially as it's been unfolding in the West, both here in Australia as well as the US. I'm American. I now live in Sydney, so it's definitely something that I've been watching too. Adam, of course, knowing yourself and what you've had to experience has been pretty incredible. For us, we basically just dropped everything over the course of the last couple of weeks or so to really help us think through how we can be as helpful as possible during this crisis. And so it's something where for us, like, we've been really helping out all the different public health organizations right now to see how they can actually utilize Canva in a way where they can get out the message. And so, for example, the WHO is actually using Canva right now in a way to spread information about COVID-19 to help us understand, hey, like, what do you have to do in this particular crisis? Basic things around staying home. What does that actually mean? What does social distancing really mean? Basic kind of public health precautions too, as well, just to make sure that you stay healthy, as well as just really being able to describe well what exactly is going on with COVID-19, so folks don't completely overreact and make sure that, hey, they're really hyper focused on what is actually happening today. So it's also just helping out different other organizations too in this crisis as they kind of respond to everything that's taking place. So whether it's teachers and helping them set up some type of digital learning environment and to create the content that still continues to engage their students, to again, doctors too, in a similar fashion around how they can continue on their social networks, be able to spread the correct information around what's happening with the virus, to working with different governments. We've been working with the French government, for example, around how they disseminate public health information and what's happening with government protocols across all of the different subunits, subsidiaries of the government within France itself. And then all the way over into industry too. For example, one of the major airlines that we work with has also been able to utilize Canva in a fashion to help roll out a lot of the changes that they've been making over the last few days in response to COVID-19. So it's kind of all over the map in terms of helping out at every possible level that we can do, is just making sure that, we're spending time on what's the most important thing for us, and helping people in any way that we can. That was a very long answer, hopefully.
Absolutely. Round of applause. Seriously. If I didn't disappear from my screen, I'd stand up and give you a round of applause. Seriously, that's really absolutely amazing. I spent the last 5 days putting together a whole video and a whole thing to show people how to get a really good quality Zoom call together.
Yeah.
And I thought I was doing an amazing thing, and I'm like totally humbled sitting next to you. But let me ask you this,
Tiffany.
Tiffany.
That's not me. That is a bunch of people, the folks at Canva, I think, really showing their true colors. And, it speaks to the mission that we have, right? The first piece is around empowering everybody to design, but part two, which, for us, Mel loves to keep it easy. It's a two-step plan. Part one, help enable everybody to be able to design, and then part two is then be able to do good in the world. And so that's something that's really core to our day-to-day here at Canva, and it's really important that we're thinking about holistically, and it's not just about building a business, things like that.
Let's talk about that. So you talk about enabling people to design. And so what I'm particularly interested in is the power of design, the power of, when I think of Canva, I think of gorgeous images, right? I mean, my whole team uses Canva basically, right? We do all our featured images on the website. We do all our video covers. I mean, we basically, if it weren't for Canva, they'd still be using PowerPoint to do design, which is how I started before I discovered Canva. Right. So tell me something though. Tell me about, again, in this environment that we're in. So you described was a series of very pragmatic ways that you are engaging with the world to assist in this environment. But let's dig deeper. What is it about design that helps messaging? Right? That's what I'm looking at. What is it about design that does that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, you want to be able to connect with people, right? And so what is it about the experience that you can create for them? And that at the end of the day is what comes back to design. And so what can really generate that type of any type of response, you know, whether it's emotional or logical, however, you know, whatever type of person you are that you react to. And so for us, you know, what we want to make possible is have everybody have that ability. You know, I'm personally not a designer. And so when I see a lot of the tools that you think of immediately when you think design, it's, you know, Photoshop and, you know, Figma and a bunch of these other tools right now that are really difficult to learn because, you know, at the end of the day, they're designed specifically for designers. And so you get that level of granularity that any regular person walking down the street may not necessarily understand or have learned or spent the time to really dig deep into and be able to become a power user. And so Canva really helps to simplify what all of that is. So anybody, you know, whether it's a kid, 5-year-old kid, up to someone who is, for me personally, at least the first way I found about Canva was my friend's moms in Oklahoma who who told me first that they were using Canva. And so something that for me was like, oh, I wasn't expecting like that particular tool to be what, you know, what you were using on a day-to-day basis. And so it's pretty incredible the reach that we've been able to achieve and the different types of people from all facets of life who utilize it in whether it's in their personal life or, you know, birthday cards, wedding invites, to what they do at work in terms of creating, you know, a sales deck or, you know, just even the internal poster advertising that, hey, happy hour is on Friday.
I see. Interesting. And then now, have you seen a spike in usage in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so it's been something I think we're still continuing to monitor in terms of what usage is beginning to look like, because I think similar to every possible other platform, I think there's probably a little bit of a dip as people reacted really quickly to, hey, the change in their day-to-day lives. However, we've seen a lot of that come back and go beyond what was initially expected, especially in activity. And so that's been something that has been really interesting. And, you know, it's still very early trends-wise. If we think about our usage in China, for example, that's actually come up beyond what we used to have pre-crisis too as well. And so that's been something that's been pretty interesting to follow, as that's probably a leading indicator of what the rest of the world's usage will look like.
All right. So tell me, what do you think's happening? Why is that ticking up?
Happening? Yeah. So I think then this is just me speculation. Is that folks are finding, right, Canva in terms of how easy it is to use and its ability to create that story that folks are looking to be able to tell really simply, and be able to also then, you know, publish it and proliferate it across the different channels that you have for communicating with the world. And so, you know, it can be as simple as, you know, an Instagram story, or as simple as a, you know, one-page poster that you want to share with the world. And so all of those things, you know, it's only a couple clicks, and, you know, you can edit the text or drag and drop the image or sticker that you're looking for. And that's something that you can relate to with almost anybody really fast in a visual medium, instantly across all the digital channels that you have. And so it's pretty incredible in terms of how fast people can learn how to use the platform and then be able to produce the type of content that they're looking to create.
So let's talk about that, because what you just described, right, is nothing different today than it was yesterday. I don't mean yesterday, I mean pre-crisis. So everything you just described is the way it's always been. Something has changed, right? So I want to suggest that maybe what's changed is that people are now at home, right? I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have spent the last 5 years sitting right where you're looking at me.
Yep.
Basically, I also have an office and an incubator, so I'm not completely homebound. But I set up this little studio, and so this is where I work and really enjoy it. So for me, this is quite normal. But suddenly, tens, if not hundreds of millions of people have migrated from the office and now working out of their houses. So that's one thing that's happened. The other thing that's happened is suddenly there's this, frankly, panic, right? Everyone's panicking all over the world. So two major things have happened, right? Yep. Everyone's at home and they're all panicked, right, for the most part, except for people like me who are just completely loopy and just looking for a way to thrive in this time, right? Just trying to find a bright spot, right? What are we going to learn from this? How will we move forward? So my question to you is there a connection? What do you think the connection is between this migration to the house and to working actually in an isolated place and this uptick that you're seeing that people have for creativity, right? Which is what it is when you go on Canva?
I mean, absolutely. It's about how you're able to express what you were, and previously you were always constantly surrounded by people, or you could go out at any point in time to be able to meet the folks that you wanted to meet and be able to then express in person what that creativity that you've been holding in is. And so I see, Canva probably likely in this case is that outlet for a lot of folks where they're able to continue to be able to hold what they're doing on a day-to-day with folks and, be able to make it, articulate it really clearly, and then thus also still be able to share and continue to have those conversations that they have. And so it's trying to recreate a lot of what takes place in your day-to-day, except of course now you're in a completely different situation. And so it's all taking place over these digital channels, because at the end of the day, that's the one thing that's not actually affected, because a virus can't take down, at least directly, can't take down.
Well, not this kind of virus. The other kind of virus can take it, right? You've got to watch your email. But apart from that, yeah. That's it. Go ahead, Tiffany. Sorry.
I was just asking if that's helpful in terms of kind of contextualizing the difference between today and yesterday.
Tiffany, I think that is a profoundly important insight. What's happening right now, to me anyway, is, I mean, again, I'm trying to find the good right out of all this. Plenty of people out there trying to find the misery and the morbidity and whatever, right? And there's, that doesn't mean to downplay how serious it is. I'm not doing that. But you know what? I think that it is accelerating a shift to the digital world. I voluntarily embarked on this path 5 years ago when we moved out into the middle of nowhere, right, basically. And I realized the only way I'm going to communicate with anybody is online. And then I discovered that I can have a conversation with you. I can tell you something interesting, but if I record that and distribute it, that means suddenly you watching me say something like give a lesson or a training or something. If I'm sitting here directly in front of you in real time, it's actually no different than if you watched a video of it. And so I started to amplify my voice online. And I think that I just have this sense that there will be a shift. People who are now involuntarily forced to do what I did voluntarily will come to realize it ain't that bad. In fact, there's an elegance and a liberty, actually it's kind of this liberating, right? That suddenly you can express yourself in a way without being subject to, chit chats in the office or whatever. I mean,
yeah, I think that's definitely coming at some point in time, or at least there's so many new avenues that make it really easy for you to be able to express yourself digitally. and have that basically be the same experience as if you're doing it online. And so, I mean, I think we see all of those trends right now in terms of, even the social networks themselves are getting faster and faster in some elements. And so with, the shorter videos with TikTok, where it's just a continuous stream as an example of that. And for us here at Canva, I think is, hey, how do you actually create content faster? And how are you able to then disseminate it across multiple different channels as quickly as you can? And so kind of really being able to move across multiple different directions with people gradually moving into this online space and realizing that it's an even bigger kind of audience that you can actually reach and by going digital.
Right, exactly. So so why is it, I know it's a silly question, because if you're in the world of it, as we both are, you know the answer to this question. But for somebody who is sitting at home, possibly listening to this, that is like I was not that long ago with this device, this phone that I'm holding up, right? A total troglodyte. I have no idea. And here they are listening to this podcast, and they don't use social. They, struggle with any kind of tech except, maybe Microsoft Word, for example, and email. And they're hearing you say things like the importance, and I'm quoting you now, back at you because I took a note, importance of spreading content across multiple channels. Why is that important? Let's tell those folk who have never really thought about it but are doing so today.
So I think it comes back to who do you want to reach, as well as what's the type of message you want to get across with folks, and also just being able to, again, kind of express yourself in a way that demonstrates the full kind of expression and feeling of the idea that you're looking to kind of convey over to folks. And so the elements of digital or a platform like Canva kind of combine all of that, where it gives you that ability to express yourself that you maybe couldn't figure out with other older tools that folks are used to using. And so helps you kind of break it down into those, step-by-step chunks that you need, whether it's a super easy, grid pattern, or what are some different types of colors or like fonts you can play with, and then elements on top of that around stickers or GIFs, and just help you really express very simply in a way that many people are going to really resonate with. And then, the next step is just then being able to click, one step click, and then be able to send it out to whoever you really want to send it out to. And then you also have the option of being able to tap into, those channels that can send it off to anybody else if you would actually like more people to be exposed to it. So I think it's really giving you a lot of that choice, and I think is really attractive to folks who may not have necessarily used it before, where you can decide how many people really want to be able to have that exposure, and if you want to be able to continue to learn more from other folks, or solicit more ideas and opinions, or just find out what other people think about your idea at the end of the day. And using digital is one of the fastest ways to get a response, a really, really fast response.
Right. It's not just using digital, though, is it? I mean, when we send an email, we're using digital, but there's nothing very pretty about an email. It's just a few lines of text, basically. We're talking about some, what Canva is the ability to express yourself using pictures and colors and art, and just, it's a very, 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 very creative way of doing that. Now, you also mentioned that people you mentioned using Canva instead of older tools.
Yeah.
So the other implication, right? I said PowerPoint. I'm actually embarrassed to say that I actually did a pretty good job with PowerPoint until I discovered Canva. And then I don't know how I even sent templates in PowerPoint to my team And they kind of, I think they're all remote. I think they kind of laughed at me when I first said, like, do you mind if we use Canva? So, no, I'm not sure. What is that? So I've been converted. But the other implication, and I'm getting at, like, what's the world that we're in right now, today, and this uptick that you are experiencing and seeing is, do you think that there is an element of wanting to learn something new, right? To take, this is, what I think that the way to survive this whole strange thing is to look for ways to thrive, right? Not just survive it. You want to come out the other side of it a better person. You want to learn something now and take something from this wacky experience. And the best way to do that is to learn something. So in your case, do you think that that's what's happening? People are saying, well, what is this thing, right? How do I learn how to use something new?
Yeah, so I mean, with Canva, for example, if you just think about our template and our content library that we have, you can explore that to see, hey, what are multiple different ways that people think about this particular topic, just searching for it, or if you wanted to, just pull it up and scroll through to see what's the latest and greatest that different creators are utilizing the Canva platform for and uploading in. And, that's something that's opt-in, of course, to share with others. That's something where you can just generate different ideas just based off of just logging into Canva and checking out the homepage and or searching through our different libraries. And so that's something definitely where, what's that spark of inspiration that you need to really start being creative and moving into our editor and creating what you're actually looking for yourself. I think that's element of the, most brainstorm possible type of searching for inspiration that you can do. There's other elements too within Canva. It's a lot of what we have isn't necessarily completely brand new. And so it's very familiar relative to other tools too as well that people have used. So there is some, we are to some extent being able to use that familiarity as a way to introduce additional options that help with reducing the amount of clicks that you have to make. So that drag and drop that I mentioned earlier, that's so simple as you have a picture that you found that you really want to use. You want to put it into a different size shape though. And so if you drag and drop it in, then it'll just fit it automatically into that shape. And so you don't have to figure out, oh, how do I resize this? Or how do I crop it appropriately? How do I remove certain elements of it that I don't want? It just does that automatically. And so I think that's something where it's a nice little aha moment once you see it in our tutorials or if you're not trying it out yourself, or if you're kind of just brainstorming and playing around with it, you'll be able to find fairly quickly.
Right. And so, of course, again, being completely immersed as you are in Canva, right, in your own technology, you forget that some people don't know that you actually might need to change the size of something, right?
Yeah.
Right? You change the size because, this took me a while to figure. So why isn't my beautiful PowerPoint picture working on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, right? Or on Instagram? I'm getting error messages every time I want to upload the damn thing. What's going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually something super interesting that, so I probably am a little bit behind my generation in terms of fully understanding how to utilize all social networks, which Canva has really helped me understand too as well. Like every single one of those mediums has their own type of template and their own type of template size. And so as a result of that, if you weren't using something like Canva, then you would have to create something for each platform individually, and then be able to post it one at a time across each of those platforms. And so, Instagram is a different size, Facebook has a different size image, LinkedIn has something that's different too as well. So with Canva, you have what we call it is magic resize, which I think is intuitive in this context that we're talking about, and allows you to be able to, you create one design and then you can automatically recreate it across every single one of those channels that you're looking to post. And so that way it just resizes your design and makes it perfect for Instagram, another button makes it perfect for Facebook. And so you actually don't even need to know what the dimensions are. You just need to be able to, you just need to know what channels or what mediums you want to be able to spread your creativity on.
I love Canva. I had the pleasure of being given a guided tour by one of your team last week that I'm actually going to distribute to everybody that I know. And gosh, where was I going with that? Oh, that's right. You're able to also upload your brand guide colors. So you can just go into one canvas, right? And all the colors and font and everything is all preset. I mean, it's quite fabulous, really.
Yeah, it's all about that simplicity and convenience. That's something I think that we underscore. And again, coming back to Canva's mission that we talked about at the beginning of this around empowering anybody to design, and it's underscored by that principle.
Tiffany, so I'm so sorry I kept you waiting. I am one of these people. I'm English, so I like to hurry up and wait. I like to get there early and knock on the door at the stroke of the hour I'm supposed to be there. And I'm so sorry. You were so kind to stay and wait for this course. But I'm not going to keep you any longer. But I do have, if I may, sign off 3 questions that I ask all of my guests. And I'm going to modify them slightly today, but hopefully they'll stay true, no matter what's going on in the world. So let's start with this one. Now, my business, as you know, is I build these digital marketing systems. I'm looking at my bloody screen doing this. Terrible. Shouldn't be doing that when I'm when it's me asking the question. But we build these digital marketing systems for real estate developers. Mm-hmm. But so I usually ask a question related to that. But today, for somebody who is at home and is for the first time facing life online, right? They're not allowed into the office and they have no choice but to engage the world and their life online. What advice would you give them?
I think the main piece of advice that I would give for folks on this front is around just keeping true to yourself and staying on message, right? And staying on brand with what you want to really be able to express. Right now, there's a ton of noise happening, right, in the midst of all the chaos that is taking place. And so you want to make sure, if you want to be able to get a great response or have folks understand what you're trying to say, is to stay on that message and remind yourself in terms of, hey, what do I really want to accomplish at the end of the day?
Lovely. Second of my last 3 questions. So you live your life online. What would you say has been the hardest lesson you've learned online?
It's related, isn't it, to that last question? I think it's one of those where you want to make sure that, again, what do you want to accomplish with the different folks across each medium or the message that you want to express. And so it's one of those where the internet history doesn't go away.
Tiffany,
being mindful of that is
I actually I never really worry that much about stuff making an error or something. I just figure, you know what, it'll be forgotten tomorrow, basically. I mean, the world's moving so fast, whatever. But all right, lovely. That's a lovely answer. Thanks so much. And then my last question for you is, what are your daily habits that make you successful in the online world? What do you do?
Sure. So a few of these is just around, having a more regular cadence around what you want to think about posting, as well as how you think about where you want to spend your time. And so a lot of that comes back to, hey, who are you trying to send a message out to, and like what are the general how do they operate to on a day-to-day, and really having that empathy around who your users actually are, or who you want to connect with, and thinking about where they are in their time and place. And so as a result of that, you can help to be able to create what is needed for them at any point in time, and adjusting your schedule to really accommodate for that.
Tiffany, thanks so much for your time with me today, and also heartfelt appreciation for everything you and Canva are doing to help the world at this time. We all try and do our little bit. It's really encouraging to hear. So thanks so much for that, and thanks for being on my podcast show.
Thank you, Adam.
That was Tiffany Tai, GM Enterprise and Head of BizOps at Canva. What an extraordinarily impressive person and company, as I'm sure you agree. I've included links to Tiffany and to Canva on the podcast page for today's episode at GowerCrowd.com, and also have that temporary link to the 80% discount on the investor acquisition system that you can use to up your game online during these difficult times when you communicate remotely online. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Tiffany Tai of Canva, for your time with me today. That's all for this episode. I'll see you next time, and for now, this is Dr. Adam Gower wishing you well and signing off.